everybody. Welcome to No Dumb Questions. My name is Christa of Practical Astros. I'm here with my Nightlight alum and buddy, Khasanti. Hi, Khasanti.
Hi, Krista. How are you doing?
All right. I'm upright and on the wheel of fortune, so that's all I can ask for. How are you doing?
So real. Yeah, similar. Tired, but somewhat vertical.
Yeah, yeah. We are going to talk about something not quite vertical. It's Mercury retrograde. How I like to call it is Mercury retrograde because that's just how it feels often. I made some slides that we'll just kind of talk over. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll just dive into it. So Mercury retrograde is a thing that happens in astrology that both astrologers and people not familiar with astrology experience and know at least what the phrase is. And as we are recording, it is October 18th, 2025. Mercury is not in retrograde, but we are kind of coming up to one. Mercury retrograde happens about 3 times a year and is usually within the same element as it goes through, and it cycles backwards through the elements. So we're kind of in the fire. Last year we were all in fire. We're now in fire waterish, and then next year will be mostly all water. So what are some of your top thoughts just on Mercury retrograde in general before we dive into some details?
Yeah, I think my top thought is like don't freak out about it as much as you're maybe told that you might be supposed to freak out about it.
Hmm.
I feel like it's become a thing that a lot of people talk about, and maybe with a little bit more scaremongering attached than is really necessary. It's a thing, like you said, that happens multiple times a year. It's not the biggest deal. It can make things a little irritating, a little not kind of flowing in the ways that we'd ideally like them. But I think with a little preparation and the right mindset, we don't need to be too tripped up by a
Hmm.
Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it kind of shows our experience of just living in a capitalist system where everything just
Mm,
needs to go forward. There needs to be progress forward. Time is linear, so let's just go that way to get away from where we were. And what Mercury retrograde does is that it forces these hangups so that you can go back and kind of check your work. There's not a lot of checking the work and the reassessing what you've already done. And I think that's why people get so frustrated with it, is because we're kind of taught and forced and feel like we should just only make progress by going from point A to point B instead of that weaving back and forth. I think it's
mm.
really just it's going against this programming that we all experience, whether we enjoy that capitalist system or not. It just feels like this like astral defiance against this system that we all participate in, you know?
Oh, could not agree more. Yeah, I think that's really right on the mark. And I feel sort of similarly like when we're all kind of living in this universe where we're juggling so many things and there's so many demands and
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of being demanded to be productive all the time. It's like we we may not feel like we have the luxury of taking a little bit more time over something. So
Mm-hmm.
that I think that can kind of feed into the frustration as well. It's like I kind of need everything to go completely right. Otherwise, everything's
Yeah.
gonna fall apart because
Yeah.
we don't kind of have a lot of that wiggle room baked into our lives
Mm-hmm.
typically. Um,
Yep.
but I think Mercury retrograde, within those constraints that we're all living in, it can be a really good time to just be more intentional about how we're spending our time and how we're planning for things and how much downtime we're kind of factoring in. Because in the long run, even though it can feel irritating to have to slow down, you can often save yourself a lot of headache and heartache in the long run
Mm-hmm.
if you do manage to kind of slow things down enough during
Yeah.
a Mercury retrograde, because the alternative is just kind of barreling forward and
Mm-hmm.
then having everything blow up.
Yeah.
And then you've got to kind of redo it anyway. So,
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not be proactive about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Two episodes that happened during one Mercury retrograde. Uh, the day of, I dropped my phone in a gravel parking lot and it just hit just right to shatter the entire screen. Day one.
Amazing.
And then later on, at the end of that retrograde, my husband and son and I were on a road trip, very mercurial, and we stopped to get gas. And my husband didn't have his wallet. And we thought, when's the last time we stopped? We were driving through Texas, so it was like 3 hours west. So we called the last gas station we were at. Yes, someone had turned the wallet in, so we had to drive 3 hours to get it. They took all the cash out, but they left the cards and the ID, thankfully.
Mm.
And then we had to drive the 3 hours back towards. So like a 6 hour drive ended up taking about 10 hours total. And that was just at that point, though, I was like, whatever tragedy we missed by having
Mm.
to retrograde back, it was worth the few $100s cash that we lost. Whatever we needed to avoid, that was kind of my attitude at that point of like,
Yeah.
yes, it was really fucking annoying. It was incredibly inconvenient. It was a loss of money. It was a delay. It was frustrating. It was tense in the car. And it could have also been worse. Like, who knows
Yeah.
what we have avoided? It was just, when I think about the worst Mercury retrograde experience, it's usually for me related around cars. And that was kind of like
Mm.
the king experience. So
That is amazing.
yeah, it's
That's
astrology
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Totally.
At least we get
Totally.
that a good story out of it.
Yeah.
So stories, communication. I mean, just we were talking before we started to record that this recording itself, we just kept having to reschedule, go back and forth, just because time got in the way. We got in the way of time, and it again, it was like it will happen. Like no need to fret about it. It'll happen in its right time. But just like the scheduling of this recording was very Mercury retrograde. So it's
It really was.
communication, it's technology, like all the things that are mercurial. So I just put some keywords up. But what
Mm-hmm.
else comes to mind for Mercury with you?
Let's see. Um, yeah, one of the, well, I guess like the sort of trickster archetype, I associate a lot with Mercury. I feel like mercurial people are often pretty witty and like that kind of fast talking banter type
Mm-hmm.
thing. So, and so I feel like when Mercury is direct, then there's more opportunity for Mercury to kind of be in that zone, kind of like zipping here and there and kind of making a little joke over here and doing some kind of little clever thing over there. And that's kind of when Mercury is happy and in their element.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all of those things kind of can go a little awry when Mercury is moving backwards.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you can maybe try and make a clever joke and then you end up kind of looking dumb or like somebody
Not
doesn't get
landing.
it
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, exactly. Or you try and be a little kind of snarky and somebody ends up kind of taking it um, not in the spirit that it was intended or
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing or, yeah. Um, yeah.
Yeah. There's something about like that back and forth, like a tennis
Mm-hmm.
match with Mercury.
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
like this back
Mm-hmm.
forth, but there's engagement, there's play.
Yeah.
There's a little competition, but it's fun, it's light, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like playing tennis very aggressively and then just to cause injury instead of playing the game. That somehow it can feel like Mercury retrograde is like personal attacks on you and things just constantly happen.
Totally, totally. And I can also just feel like the whole vibe can just feel a little kind of heavy and
Mm-hmm.
sticky during
Mm-hmm.
Mercury retrograde. It's sort of like that normal butterfly flitting around kind of easy movement is kind
Mm,
of stifled somehow, and so sometimes my mood can just be a little. I'm a very mercurial, but I have a lot of planets in Gemini, so
mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like I don't know if I can say affected more by Mercury retrogrades, but I just feel like I have a lot of Mercury kind of in my system. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when when Mercury's kind of in a bind, then chances are I'm kind of feeling it on some level, and
Hmm.
often it is just kind of feeling a little sluggish, like all the kind of normal neurons aren't quite firing in the way that
Yeah.
I'd like them to.
Yeah, I mean, if your ruling planet or even your time lord of the year is
Mm-hmm.
a planet that is slowing down in retrograde, then that it just seems like it sends like a more of a static signal. So it's like takes more bandwidth to receive the information. It takes more time or
Mm-hmm.
energy. There's that delay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I made this here just to kind of remind people, Mercury, it does go retrograde multiple times a year. Because of that retrograde, it means it kind of takes about as much time as the sun does to go through all the signs. It's 27.8 degrees is the maximum elongation, meaning it's the furthest away it can get from the sun. Um, so it stays relatively close. Most people, their sun sign, Mercury is going to be flanked on either side of their sun sign if it's not
Mm-hmm.
within the same sign as their sun. Like it stays, Mercury stays really close. And in the planetary joy scheme, the different planets find their joy in a different house. And Mercury likes to be right there in the first house, right there on the ascendant. I think that it just likes to see as much of what's going on to get all the tea. It's very mercurial.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercury's at home in Virgo and Gemini. It's also exalted in Virgo. It's the only planet that has kind of that double dignity with its home and exalted sign. It's fallen and exiled in Pisces, and it's exiled in Sagittarius. It just, exiled and fallen planets, aren't bad. They just have to work. They have to be more inventive and work harder, and they don't have kind of that direct signal like the Virgo and Gemini can give. And I'm going to move down to this. We're going to get to the astronomy of it in a second, but Mercury is blamed for a lot of things. I just yesterday got a text. I get this a lot from people who have my phone number and know that I'm an astrologer, ask me constantly, is Mercury retrograde right now? Like it's something that it's like this blanket, get out of jail free card for your own problems, just want to blame somebody for it. And
Mm-hmm.
Mercury retrograde is one that is often blamed for. I had this kind of this document that somebody had made, and it was basically like this sarcastic hippie woo dictionary of terms. And Mercury retrograde's definition was why you called your girlfriend a bitch last night, was like what they wrote for it. And it just cracks me up because you could just blame it on anything. And people really want to, because they want to have some sort of context for why they're having such a difficult time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because people have experienced a retrograde Mercury moment, especially if you have, planets that are in the sign where Mercury is retrograding, or if you have a lot of Mercury ruled placements in your chart. So I put some
Mm-hmm.
examples of what we blame Mercury retrograde for, and then some of the RE words, which is about reconnecting, basically reviewing, reflecting, remembering all the RE words to kind of reattach these things back to ourselves. Because during a retrograde is usually when you are having to retrace your steps and kind of see
Mm.
what you missed or see what you need to let go of, that sort of a thing. Um, what has been your experience that during a Mercury retrograde? Like, what do you like to use it for, or do you have any astrology good moments with it?
Yeah, I think I love that you have all of the rewords up here because I think kind of like I was saying earlier that they can provide this opportunity for us to be proactive
Mm-hmm.
about like if we're working on some kind of project and we know that we're getting a little time crunchy about it, or it's like, and Mercury retrograde's coming up, well, especially if the project is something that kind of fits in the house that Mercury is retrograding through in your chart
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So if it's in your 10th house, maybe it's a kind of something to do with your job. If it's in your seventh house, maybe it's something to do with a close relationship, or, so on and so forth. I like to, when I can, just schedule more spaces in my day. So instead of kind of like crossing my fingers and hoping I can get away with like skating from thing A to thing B to thing C and just kind of hoping nothing goes wrong, it's like just maybe assume that something might be more likely to go wrong than
Mm.
usual and factor in the spare time for that. And then you'll feel more like you're kind of working with the astrology as opposed to kind of being a victim of the
Mm.
astrology kind of happening to you, so to speak. Yeah, so that's kind of my preference. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, I've done my taxes during Mercury retrograde and just
Hmm.
waited for it to go direct before I filed it because it's a great
Yeah.
time to then go back and lament all the money that I spent,
Yeah.
but to like list it out of like, well, this is where I need to work on my budget for next year, like there's
Yeah. Oh, that's
all
perfect.
all learning in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had experience of, signing contracts for my brokerage business during a retrograde and never fails. It has never failed where I have to go back and change the contract, like the territory changed, or we had to renegotiate the percentage of commission, like whatever it is. So, getting married during a Mercury retrograde, it does not mean that you will divorce, but it may be baked into the chart of the moment that there's this negotiation that is
Mm,
kind of a part of it, whether it's a marriage or a contract, that it has in it this idea of reflection, of maybe we
yeah.
need to refine it, another RE word. Like it
Mm,
does not mean it's inherently bad or will not go forward in the future. It just kind of has this like not quite good enough. Like what else can we do? What else can we
yeah.
kind of nuance about this so that it makes it better than what we initially started? um
Yeah, I love that because I think that I feel like it might be Chris Brennan that I got this from, but like the idea that sometimes it is irritating when you have a Mercury retrograde astrologer good moment where something that you worked really hard on breaks and you have to redo it. But like
mhm.
9 times out of 10, the redone version is better than the one that you did the first time around.
Yeah,
So, um,
so you're
yeah.
welcome is what Mercury is saying.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And I think there's just something kind of like what do I want to say? Like to bring in a little kind of Buddhist theory into this, it's like a lot, if not all, of the suffering that we experience in our lives is due to kind of like a mismatch between what we expect to happen and what
Mm,
actually happens, which is not to say that um everything bad happens for a reason or any of that kind of nonsense. But like a lot of unnecessary suffering comes from being bummed out that something didn't happen the way that you thought it was going to happen.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I think Mercury retrogrades are a great time to just kind of lean into that kind of, even if you're not a Buddhist, it's a pretty kind of universal truth, I think, that if you can just keep an eye on what you are expecting and then maybe kind of dial that down a little bit,
Mhm.
then your levels of frustration and disappointment and kind of shaking your fists at the sky are gonna um, reduce,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
proportionally. So,
It reminds me of a boss that I once had, and one of the ways that we negotiated around him was he would always believe the first version of a story that anyone told him. He
mm,
would like that, whatever the first time he heard the information of whatever happened, that it imprinted in him, that was his truth. And even if you came around with like, no, this is actually what happened and there's witnesses or whatever, in his mind it had already been imprinted like, no, this is what happened because it was literally the first time he heard the
wow.
story. And I think about that because we all do that. We have this idea of like, this is how it's going to be, even if it's just a mundane plan.
Yeah.
And we kind of imprint that as like a little marker of time to then drag ourselves towards the future with it. And if it changes, it can be frustrating. We're like, well, that's not what I thought was going to happen or even wanted to. But oftentimes we don't even really reflect, like, did I want it to happen that way? That was just kind of how my mind put it
Yeah.
into the future thought so that I could pull myself towards it. And I think reevaluating it and thinking about, well, how do you really envision this in the best way? Because if it hasn't happened yet, maybe change your expectations with a little bit more thought. And it does encourage that mindfulness. That Mercury retrograde is a time to kind of decide what you want to keep, what you want to gain, and then what you want to let go and what you are okay with, releasing to whatever the fates are. I think that it can help us be okay with that adjustment because plans always change.
Yeah.
The ideal only works in the head when it comes into real form, and it ceases to be ideal because it's not just in your head anymore. So, yeah. Any more things to blame Mercury retrograde for before we go to the astronomy?
No, I think Mercury gets blamed for enough things.
Yeah.
Let's go look at
Yeah.
the astronomy of it all.
So here's an image. I think I got it from Mindfire. Actually forgot to credit this, so I'll put the credit in the video notes. But this is the sun here, and here we are on Earth. And if we look at this line here, it's showing our perspective of Mercury, and it's kind of cast out so that we see a little bit more of its travel. And then the second layer, it has Mercury here, and it shows the view. And then we see it here as Earth is kind of at this curve. Mercury is, far away, but then at this point, it looks like it's gone backwards. It hasn't gone backwards. It's just our perspective of it has changed. It's like being in a car and passing by some cows in a field, and you see one view of it, and then you see another one. It looks like the cow is moving away, but you're the one moving faster than it. So it is really just the perspective. And it has to do with, Mercury's own orbit around the sun, our orbit around the sun, and the perspective that it seems like it's going backwards, but it's really just our perspective is shifting. So we're seeing more sides of the planet by doing that. What are your thoughts just on the astronomy?
I've actually never seen this specific diagram before, so it's really cool. Like I kind of knew it theoretically that,
Mm-hmm.
the all the analogies of the cow and the car and
Yeah.
whatnot, but yeah, I like it. I like just kind of seeing it laid out as a little path and kind of, I don't know. I don't know if this is ju just kind of the way the person that made the diagram chose
Mm.
to do it, but I just kind of like that it's just in this cute little kind of loop-de-loop. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of, it doesn't look too threatening. It just kind of looks like, oh, okay, we're gonna go around in a cute little circle and then we're gonna be on our way.
Yeah. Yeah.
No big deal. Just a thing that's happening.
Yeah, all of the if you look at the orbital path of Mercury, it all looks like a stitch to me. It looks like
Oh
going
yeah.
up,
Mm-hmm.
through the fabric and then down through the fabric and going up, and it's like those stitches that go, that anchor a little bit more. That reflection moment during a retrograde really does
Mm,
anchor whatever you're working on a little bit stronger because you are having to redo it,
mm,
or you're having to get the seam ripper out and completely take all the thread out. Whatever
mm-hmm,
it is, you're
mm-hmm,
having to kind of like spend a little bit more time. But they've always reminded me of threads, and while Mercury has that trickster reputation for sure, there during the retrograde moment, it feels like it gets more philosophical. It takes that
mm,
trickster Peter Pan-esque energy about it and just makes it more of like a it almost feels somber because that expressed mercurial essence is being internalized.
mm,
And when you have those slowdowns and you have those 6-hour drives through the West, Texas desert, you
mm-hmm.
have a bit more time to be reflective about things. And it
Yeah.
gives you the space to think of, just more philosophical subjects instead of, getting from point A to point B to point C and just going forward. It just feels like it's a more philosophical, or even like sobering sort of a time.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of Mercury as the psychopomp,
Hmm.
kind of going in, Mercury, um, in the, well, Mercury slash Hermes is kind
Hmm.
of their job is to kind of go chit chat with the gods, but then also kind of go into the underworld and kind of
Yeah.
be the messenger kind of between all the different levels of reality, if you like.
I'm
And
going to show this painting here because it's totally the image of Hermes, going to as the psychopomp. It's my absolute favorite image of Hermes, but as that serious, if I can get it to open up, because it isn't just all Peter Pan-y, you know.
yeah.
It's
Oh
it,
my God,
it's
I love
it's
that.
it's so beautiful,
Whoa.
and it's ushering souls to the underworld, as
Mm.
that serious. I mean, it's a intense image.
Yeah.
It's a really dark painting, but I mean, like, look at that with the winged hat and the caduceus, and but
Yeah.
taking that serious role of
Mm-hmm.
guiding the souls to the underworld. It's not just fun and games and tennis matches.
Yeah.
It's some serious shit too.
Yeah, totally, totally. Man, I love that. I have never seen that. That maybe, I don't know if it's going up on my wall, but it's going somewhere. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
Adolf, um Hereme Herschel. I've I found it a couple of years ago, just
Mm.
doing some research on Hermes, and I was like, "Whew, yeah, this one
Yeah.
is it's special."
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Stunning.
Um, I am going to share the chart because I wanted to talk about um, how Mercury goes from evening star to morning star,
Oh
as we're going
yeah.
to have it
Mm-hmm.
here. So, can you see the chart on the screen?
I can. I just need to move my Zoom. I think my mouse is gonna make a noise, but there we go. Now I can see it.
Cool.
I just had to
So
move your face.
this is for my location. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. For my location on November 9th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is when Mercury stations retrograde at 6 degrees, 51 minutes Sagittarius. Mars is very close.
Mm.
And I'm going to move it by a couple of hours so that we're looking at sunset. So we have one more hour. We have the sun here that's below the horizon because we have a 15-degree Gemini ascendant. So it's 15-degree Sagittarius. Descendant would be the western horizon. And the sun is here. And if it was just a little bit above, it would be just above the horizon. So when the sun sets, we can see Mercury as a star in the evening sky. And then as it goes through, I'll make it so that it's conjoined the sun. So on November 20th, is actually a really cool day. It's the new moon in Scorpio. Mercury will be Kazemi the sun. Same
Mm.
day, within like 3 hours, they're all going to be together in
Ooh.
Scorpio. This is really, really sexy.
Mm.
And then
I'm into it.
after that, when it goes direct on the 29th, the sun is here at 7 degrees, almost at that station point, and Mercury will be direct in Scorpio. But then let's look a couple of days later to give a little bit more. Actually, we can just do a couple of hours to follow Mercury through the houses. And then we have Mercury here, 20 degrees Scorpio. The sun is in Sagittarius. And so it is above the horizon now. So
Mm.
if this is the eastern horizon, the first house, the ascendant, the sun is rising, we'll be able to see Mercury before the sun rises. Because Mercury travels so close to the sun, we usually can't see it when it's that close because the sun's light outshines it. So we went from being able to see it in the evening as an evening star through its retrograde, through its Kazemi, and then through its forward motion, it'll get a little further away. But now we can see it in the morning. And the like the archetype of a morning star Venus versus a morning star or evening star Venus can change kind of like how Venus expresses herself. Similarly, with Mercury, having an evening star Mercury versus a morning star Mercury can express how they express themselves. So I just wanted to kind of show that just on the chart so that people understood kind of how that can change. And this happens 3 times a year. So we have that kind of shifting of Mercury in the sky, which I like it because you can see Mercury. You know, if you have enough darkness without a lot of city lights, and as you know, my issue is trees. I have tons of trees around me, so I often can't see things at the horizon. I have to go higher up in the mountains to kind of to have visibility. But you can see these planets, like you can see Jupiter right now, you can see Venus. But being able to witness a planet, I think, kind of helps the engagement of your experience of whatever transit that planet's going through. And Mercury is like the god for the people. It's the emissary between and the messenger between the gods and the people. And so I encourage people to try to lay your own eyes on Mercury when you can. And I feel like that kind of helps augment if you are having a negative experience during the Mercury retrograde, is just talk right to them, talk right to her, you know. Whether you do it in the evening before it goes through the conjunction with the sun, or in the morning, you know, basically beginning of December, just plant your feet outside and, you know, shake your fist up at the stars.
Have a little chat.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I think it's so helpful to show the chart that you just showed, because I think it can be a little confusing for people, the whole morning star, evening star thing. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, it's important to remember, like looking at a chart, that you know, this first house is that eastern horizon and the 7th house is the western horizon. And you can glean so many archetypal lessons just from that. But then, you know, looking at it of where the planets are, of, you know, planets in that 2nd house are just in that underworld waiting to rise up, you know, like it really does inform the expression of a planetary signature. It's not abstract. It's poetic, you know, in my mind. So,
and it feels like it, as I'm just noodling on it right now, that it somehow speaks to Mercury having their joy in the 1st house, that kind of
100%.
like
Yeah.
just sort of bopping up and down, kind of one minute they're one side of the sun, the next minute they're the other side of the sun, like just kind of almost reveling in that duality. Like that's another really good keyword for Mercury, like the ability to kind of be the above ground messenger and the underground messenger, and kind of hold both of those 2 ways of being, and kind of celebrate that back and forth journey. That's very Mercury.
Yeah. Because it doesn't necessarily have like a benefic or malefic, you know, title put on it. Like Venus and Jupiter, they're considered benefics in Hellenistic astrology. Mars and Saturn are the malefics. But Mercury is fairly neutral. It doesn't really have a sect team. I mean, there's ideas of, depending on whether it rises before the sun, then it's of the day sect. If it rises after the sun, it's of the night sect. But even that is kind of like ambiguous, which ambiguous is kind of a mercurial thing. So it's neutral, but it's influenced by whatever is engaging with it too.
Right.
Kind of like my boss, like my old boss, like whoever talked to it first, that was kind of the directive. So it's neutral, but impressionable, I guess is the thing.
Totally. Now I'm wondering whether your boss had like any major Mercury stuff going on.
Yeah, Mercury ruled sun. I know that.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I don't know anything else, but I know it's a Mercury ruled sun. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Well, to end, just a question of, if you have natal Mercury retrograde, do you feel like, do you have a direct or station or retrograde Mercury?
Mine is direct, but pretty close to the sun, like 2 degrees away 3 degrees away from the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
If you have a retrograde Mercury in your chart, like let's say somebody came to you and this was their chart. They have a
Mm,
stationing, exiled, retrograde Mercury. How do you see that? I mean, do I get this question from clients because they're worried when they
mm,
see all these
mm-hmm,
retrograde planets. But particularly when they see a retrograde Mercury, it kind of freaks them
mm-hmm.
out. I think because the general zeitgeist is that
Yeah,
it's a bad thing. So
right.
how do you talk to a client about having a retrograde Mercury in their natal chart?
I mean, in a way, kind of similarly to everything that we've been saying on this episode. It's, I mean, obviously it's chart dependent, context dependent,
Yeah.
no blah, 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 no two charts and lives are alike and what have you. But in general, I would, I'd probably investigate, themes around, that more philosophical side of Mercury or the more kind of underworld traversing side of Mercury and just kind of just try and feel out how that's expressing itself in the person's life and then
Mm,
that's generally how I'm approaching most consultations with people is just having a conversation and between the two, ooh, getting animated here, between the two of us, just kind of teasing out like, okay, so yeah, how is this particular Mercury retrograde in Sag like playing out in your life?
yeah.
Because yeah, like you said earlier about planets that are not in, that are maybe in detriment or don't have like the best essential dignity, it doesn't mean that like the person's gonna have like a terrible life or
Mm,
everything's gonna be really hard. It can just mean you don't necessarily kind of have the mercurial tools to do things in the ways that our society expects people to do mercurial things. So you might
yeah.
have to just kind of be a little bit more creative or a bit more wacky or a bit more, like Mercury, I'm trying to think. Maybe this was like a Mercury in Gemini slash Mercury in Sag contrast, but like something, or maybe I don't know, Mercury in Pisces, but like Mercury in one of their home signs can be more like the reporter, and
Mm,
then say Mercury in Pisces can be more like the poet, or
hmm.
Mercury in Sag could be like the storyteller or something. So,
Yeah.
it's not like a reporter is better than a storyteller. Like sometimes I struggle with storytelling because I am so kind of like, here are the facts, and I must
Hmm.
explain everything chronologically. And sometimes that kind of gets in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
So, I think with every birth chart, there is a way to look at how everything is placed and find the kind of unique beauty in those expressions without kind of denying that sometimes there are some challenging things going on. Like it's
Yeah.
not all love and light all the time, but yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Mercury
Does
wouldn't like that. Mercury
no,
wants a
no.
little bit of the grit and the kind of the sort of underworldly darkness to go with the other stuff.
I think because you need both, like if it
Yeah.
was all love and light, then you wouldn't know what love and light was because you wouldn't have,
Yeah.
the
Mm.
foil to it to reflect back of
Oh,
what it's not, right?
yeah.
And
So
maybe
true.
that's what, having Mercury there at the first house. Like I'll move it so that Mercury is here in the first. Mercury finds their joy in the first. I mean, this would be like to me, I would just see like a comedian having Mercury, Mars, and
Yeah,
Sag there.
totally.
Having kind of that bold
Mm-hmm.
attitude and being able to just, stick your foot in your mouth and then put it on a microphone to like share out with the world. Like to me, like Sag
Yeah,
Mercury is so funny.
that's
Um,
perfect.
but
Mm-hmm.
having Mercury there at you know, basically to see, all as much of the chart as possible, to be at the helm. And in Hellenistic astrology, the first house is considered the helm. So you can kind of see the horizon. You can see what's ahead, you can see what's below, but you can also get a sense of where this underworld, that second house of like just having risen up from that and then falling into the 12th. It's like having the awareness of the dark peripheral and being aware of the bright present. There's something about Mercury's being able to kind of see both at the same time.
100%. And bringing one with them into the other and vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah. There's Peter Pan has just really been in my head today for some reason. And just imagining in the Disney movie, it was Wendy was trying to sew his shadow back onto his foot. And there's something about like escaping that imagination land and wanting to leave your shadow. But it's like, no, the shadow is equally a part of you. The shadow like is always there. You know, if you're standing in the sunshine and you're casting a shadow somewhere, and you can only have shadow with the sun. So that duality is just so beautiful. And Mercury is like the perfect image of having that duality and appreciating both of it. And sometimes having the Mercury retrograde is those moments to appreciate the frustration so that you can know when things are going smoothly. If things are always smoothly, then you expect them to go smoothly all the time. And that's no fun. You know, there's no adventure in that.
Yeah.
My friend said over the summer, and I just keep repeating it in my head, she was like, you're on an adventure when you find yourself wishing to be back on your own couch. And that's like, we think of adventure as like one thing, but it's like, you really are when you're like, oh man, I just don't want to be here right now. I just want to be back on the comfort. So that when you are on your own couch, you can think of the good story that you had of, what made you think that thought to begin with. So, well, I think we have wrung all the retrograde out of Mercury that we possibly can. I'll stop the share, and thanks for chatting about your ruling planet. I know it's not your ascendant lord, but it's your sun lord. So
yeah, definite big deal in my chart. So love Mercury.
Yeah,
very, very much fun to talk with you about Mercury things.
Astrology, especially very mercurial.
Yeah.
So you are an astrologer. You read for clients. Do you care to share a little bit about your practice and how people can find you?
I would love to. Thank you. Yeah. So you can find me at my website, which is openskywitch.com. And I'm on Blue Sky under Open Sky Witch. My books are open. Love doing natal readings for people. So come and take a look and book with me if you feel like you'd like to. I'm also just this year, if you are someone who is struggling a little bit financially, I am part of the Nightlight Astrology low-cost reading clinic. So if you go to nightlightastrology.com and look through their readings page, you'll kind of find me on there. And I also just started a new podcast, which is exciting. So our first episode comes out next week, but we already have a trailer up. We're called The Dark Moon Cafe. It's just a kind of low-key, comfy, cozy conversation about astrology once a month while the moon is dark, with another astrologer, Randy, who I met in my first year studying at Nightlight. So
Awesome.
Yeah. So come check me out.
Great. I'll put all those links in the show notes so it'll be nice and clickable. But thanks again, Khasanti. It was good to chat with you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Like and subscribe.